Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. It's getting closer by the day, talking about Edo elections. We'll come to that. We shall be over to Edo State. But let's start off with the other, chunk of news that we got, which is that the pro-chancellor of the University of Lagos, Wale Babalakin SAN, has resigned. Well, as you know, he was asked to step aside in the crisis that hit the station, and the station, it's not a TV station, it's a university, in the crisis that hit the university. And they've already done, I think, at least one round of sort of, giving the statements, explaining themselves. But now, just like a jolt out of the blue, Wale Babalakin SAN, Pro-Chancellor University, former Pro-Chancellor University of Lagos, we can now say, since he was suspended, but now he's resigned. And I have a guest in studio, a policy analyst, to sort of, give me his perspective on this, talking about Mr. Akin Fatunke. Good morning, Akin. It's great to be able to, meet with you this morning and chat about this.
I tell you, Yori, it's a pleasure.
Indeed.
Seeing you live.
My pleasure.
Beyond those candid cameras.
There you go.
Candid shots that you put. Yeah, candidly, we must look at what has happened at University of Lagos. And for me, there were issues of principle. Mm-hmm. There were issues of process of law. Wale Babalakin himself being an octopus in that profession. And not to talk of the Senate of the university, who, from that ivory tower perspective, were the creme de la cremes that you can find anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. I'd like to quickly say that, despite the fact that, you say, Nigerian universities are very far when you rank them in top 1,000. Putting in perspective, it's taking 35 days of a bit of an uproar in University of Lagos, starting August 12th and culminating yesterday. For me, was I surprised? I would say I am pleasantly pleased.
Okay.
At the outcome.
The outcome being his resignation?
Yes, his outcome being resignation. Because what Dr. Wale Babalakin, that I feel I know and I perceive, I have read over time, is a man of principle. And he should, not want to put his his knee on the university's neck.
Job goal, so to speak.
One, was due principle followed in all that he did? Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe not to the extent
due process,
that,
you mean?
yes, okay. Due process in conveying, in sacking, presiding over the sacking of Professor Toyin Ogundekpe, and also appointing Professor Shoyombo to act. Did that follow the university's Miscellaneous Amendment Act 2003? As regards how you should convey, how you should sack. I was not there, but from what I read, the professors, some professors, let's put it in context, some professors said, no, that was really not followed. The Senate should stamp it on and get it over with. Okay? Maybe right, maybe wrong. So we had two gladiators. But what makes me happy personally, as an analyst, as an accountant, somebody that signs on to the tenets of the corporate governance codes that we have, is that Dr. Wale Babalakin might have been misunderstood with his intent. He came out and clearly said that, due process was followed, okay. Maybe that's right again, maybe that's not wrong, that the federal government appointees to the Senate all voted to say that Professor Toyin Ogundekpe should be sacked for various, allegations, malfeasance, for which the Daigarin panel was raised to look at them. They looked at that. he was a bit in a hurry and said that, look, a lot of concealment has happened. The university community, whether you like it or not, beyond the facade of what we see and hear, was slightly divided. You know, the professors and the academic staff were on one trajectory. The non-academic staff was on another trajectory. And don't forget, when that happened, the non-academic staff were glad. They said, look, things have been lopsided now. I make claims here that I picked from here and there, but in piecing them together as an analyst, I know that there cannot be smoke without fire. I look at Wale Babalakin from his exemplary conduct. He, according to him, has put his heart, might to sanitizing the university system. Now, we maybe look at the university system. I have a private sector background. I don't talk of looking at public sector, where accountability, due process, and ensuring that transparency cuts across board has always been lacking. And it's one of the reasons why we are back to where we are as a country, where we do things, and somebody has been elected as an executive, is chief samurai of whatever, and he hasn't been able to put control. He has not been able to audit accounts. He has unilaterally taken steps which, at the end of the day, may destroy the university. I am touched that Wale Babalakin, according to him, has not taken a kobo from that university, either for sitting allowance and, you know, little bit of perks here and there.
He said instead of that, he was actually spending his money.
Not only just spending his money, as pro-chancellor of the University of Maiduguri also, I did not read. I saw situations where I have seen him pour out his largesse, not just to the University of Lagos, to tertiary institutions all over the country. So that principle of the taking a step and saying, rather than continuing, even though I know due process of law has not been followed, the association of, I respect Professor Saad, Tahir Saad, who came for visitation. But these are vice-chancellors of other universities in an affiliative mode. What do you expect? Where I come from, you must not only be seen to be above board, but all semblance in ethical perspective that will give you a semblance of a bias must have to be taken off. That was, I mean, I do not expect, well, in the Nigerian parlance, I don't expect that the vice-chancellors of other universities will naturally, I'm not saying they will have been biased, will naturally want to be biased because it will have happened to either of them. So we need to have taken care of that. That's one. Two, in accordance to what Dr. Babalakin, SAN, said, it's an issue of constitution and law interpretation here. He is non-executive pro-chancellor. How can you ask him to step aside? Professor Ogundepe had literally been sacked. How will you now be asking him to recuse himself rather than go to court? Because we could continue and then go to court. He's taking that honorable path, like we do in the old Oyo Empire, when they say Shigba, you know, take that honorable. I rather want to, if my good is perceived as not being good enough, the only honorable thing for me to do is to step aside. So what have I said now? Yeah, maybe due process have not been followed. We may have ended the war, so to speak, on the campus of the University of Lagos, but the battle keeps on raging because those 11 points are too weighty. And one of the things I expect, I had prescribed that this action that Professor Babalakin, Dr. Babalakin has taken should equally be self-censoring for my dear brother and friend, Professor Ogundepe, to also equally step aside so that we can start an audience table clean slate, a tabula rasa that will at least show the whole world that nothing has gone under the table.
Indeed, thank you very much, Akin, for the quite background and overview. It'll be interesting to see how that particular last suggestion works out. I don't know, just from reading about the case, perhaps that might not be one of the choices that the academic might take. But Babalaki himself, stepping aside, I don't know, some might construe it as some sort of a victory for them. But again, there's the analysis that you have given to it that, look, do I need this? But then him being, as it were, a champion of the law, he's an SAN, and one thought he might want to actually fight the case, especially against the backdrop of what you said and is known, because we've heard about it, that he didn't receive any remuneration from the University of Lagos throughout his tenure there. Yes, he was accused of high-handedness and all of that, but, well, let me be careful here. It all goes back to lawyers, the law, and proof. Proof is part of the problem here, part of the challenge, in the sense that although I don't know, we're not talking law here, some proof is extremely difficult to find. Babalaki explained to us what the situation was, what he saw as a mess that needed to be cleaned up. How you go about it is tremendously important, since every last detail of the law was going to be would have to be taken into consideration.
For good reason, I like to say publicly that University of Lagos is not just the only one. So many things that are going on in every towers across the various institutions of higher learning. The TED Fund management in Nigeria, which is like the NMPC, PPMC of the university system. It's riddled with a lot of things that you just don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I engaged the ASU president, at an international forum where we had the vice president on, and we were talking about this IPSS, integrated personnel system that we said the university should come on, and it was all Boston. And I said, Prof. Ogun, back in the private sector, we try our best to just make sure we align. I know you have your points about you wanting to be autonomous, but we see that quite a lot of fraud. Is it from, don't let's be talking about sex for marks, that goes on everywhere. Lecturers wanting to sell, their works.
Yeah.
Because if you don't buy my works and all that, so many things go on. And my expectation is that, please, let's align. Let's prove the fact that, yes, government, with your bureaucracy, this is not going to work, or create an alternative. That's one of the things that is still going. And I think the greatest shame to me, just to take a cue from what you are saying, is that Babalaki, by this action, is also saying that he's going to, well, he's resigned his headship of the federal government negotiation panel that has been looking at the negotiation with the union since 2017 and what have you. Well,
so there's a sense in which one might interpret that as him feeling hard done by.
For me, the principle at the end of the day is the fact that he has chosen to resign, something that is alien in this part of the world. I think he has also shown the courage, the will, and the capacity to say, look, it's not all about the office. Means to an end, the end, principle. And I think that goes for everybody, including our political actors. There is a time for entry. There is a time to courageously say, yes, it's over.
Well, I think we're going to have to leave it there. But I particularly note what you said in there, that this is an action that is alien to our environment. People are resigning honorably. Right. Although, again, that also is going to be subject to interpretation depending on who is analyzing, as you know. But I want to thank you very much for coming on, Akin, and giving us the benefit of your perspective and your thoughts on this whole matter.
Thank you very much, Ori. And you're doing good. You're looking younger. You're looking younger.
There you go.
So what's been happening to you?
You know, I could say the same for you. But we'll continue that conversation outside. Thank you very much, Akin.
Thank you very much.
There you go, Mr. Akin Fatunke, policy analyst, commenting on Wale Babalakin, SAN, resigning as Pro-Chancellor of the University of Lagos. Okay, we'll take a break now. We'll be right back. And as I said, we'll be nipping. We'll take a break now. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's continue with our, series on countdown to Edo governorship election, and we're going straight over to Edo State, where our man Femi Akande is in our studio over in Edo. Good morning, Femi. Over to you now.
Yes. Good morning. It's less than 24 hours to lights, cameras, and action, and indeed that is the day registered voters will line up to cast their ballot. Election day. Right now, it is believed that political parties and indeed politicians would have crossed the T's and dotted their I's, and all would have been in place ahead of tomorrow's governorship election. It is now left for the registered voters to decide who indeed they prefer to govern the state, and that decision will be made tomorrow. We have seen all activities in the build-up to this governorship election. We've heard from the Electoral Commission, INEC, we've heard from the security agencies, the civil society, election observers. Everyone says indeed the stage has been set and the scene is ready for that big action, and that is for registered voters to cast their ballot. I would have joining me two people who would also help us give a perspective to the conversation around the Edo State governorship election. I have Richard Akiola, veteran journalist and member
civil society.
Yes, as a prominent member of the civil society in Nigeria. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
And I also have Ayo Adewale, another prominent member of the civil society and a member of CODA, Committee for the what's the name of CODA? Yeah, yes. A prominent member of CODA and a member of the civil society. Yes, let me start with you, Ayo. This is a time when the tension is really very high because tomorrow is the D-Day. But going around town, interacting with people, do you feel that tension? Is it in the air?
Well, going around town, I don't really see much tension, particularly from the state capital. People are going about their normal duties, security operatives, combing the area, and there's a lot of plainclothes intelligence officers also going around. One or two places you see the military also taking various positions. And from our members all across the 18 local government, CODA members, we've also gotten feedback that the same is happening all over the place, especially far-flung areas, riverine communities where you don't really have much presence. We are also getting footages and reports that things are going normal. We are also putting our ears on the ground to get more information and, of course, to share with other civil society groups, INEC, and security operatives.
Let's talk about INEC and security operatives' level of preparedness. Have they done their homework, and is the stage indeed set for that governorship election tomorrow?
Well, I think from our observation, I think INEC, they've done, marvelously well, in terms of preparation. And again, in terms of security, the fact that everywhere had been quite peaceful, and the tension, that people had anticipated is not in the air. So I think to that extent, I think one can give kudos to the security agencies for that. But I just hope that when the real event takes place tomorrow, I mean, this kind of environment will be sustained so that we will not witness what happened in the Kogi election when thugs took over the whole processes and almost marred the whole exercise. But I think by and large, I think INEC has been quite prepared for it, and they have done so well, so far so good. So I hope that in terms of deployment of materials to various polling centers will not be marred with lots of delays, because sometimes, I mean, some past experiences, you see that material don't get to the polling centers on time. Sometimes it's around 12 o'clock, and that brings us almost some tension and stuff like that. So I hope that that will not repeat itself, particularly since this is just an isolated election. It's not like the whole country is, I mean, so I don't think we should expect anything less from INEC.
Yeah. The atmosphere before now is one that had created fear in the mind of the electorate. Do they still have all that fear, or is there that confidence in security agencies that indeed they can come out to cast their vote and that peaceful environment will be created for them to carry out their franchise?
There's no doubt that the atmosphere was charged. It was charged prior to now, based on the fact that some political parties were giving out statements that charged the environment. And we thank His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin, for taking that frontal step to call all political players, political actors, to his palace, and of course, I spoke to them rightly that the life of every Edo citizen is more than any blood that can be shed, and that peace must not be mortgaged at any instance. And I think that was a very wonderful thing that was done. And of course, the Bishop Kuka and retired General Abubakar Peace Committee also came in to make them sign the peace treaty. And I must commend TVC and other news media to have, amplified all of these happenings for people to be carried along. And the Edo people do have a very strong resilience in all of their history, from the Western region, even pre-colonial era. They've been known to hold on to their position, hold on to their principles, and guarded their heritage. I mean, you saw what happened during the colonial time when the Benin Empire was attacked and all of that. The Edo people still managed to hold on to their cultural heritage and their sovereignty. And I believe that is what will happen during this electioneering process. The Edo people will own the process, they will dictate the process, and I believe they will maintain peace.
Okay, let me come to you, sir. Violence is gradually, or if you look at it over time, it's something that is becoming a prominent feature of electoral process. And with this kind of peace accord, which appears to have come to stay as a way of bringing political actors to commit to peace, beyond this peace accord, how can we curb this rising trend of violence and other electoral offenses that are beginning to mar democratic process?
I think it's a matter of desperation of political actors. Because if political actors are less desperate and allow the process to take, it's normal turn of events. I mean, I don't expect, violence to be a major feature characteristic of our election. And I know that in the past, about a month ago, there have lots of incendiary speeches and threats, pockets of threats here and there. But by and large, I think that had been reduced substantially, and that's why we see lots of peaceful environments, and which I think we must give kudos to the security agencies for that, which I hope that will maintain tomorrow. But I think the major challenge we have is that political actors are very desperate and make it like a do-or-die affair. And of course, the followership, they take a cue from that, and even overdo what they were not even sent. So I think that's a major challenge. But if we allow our democratic presets to be in charge of our thinking and our actions. I don't think the issue of the desperation should come in. Election is, somebody must win, somebody must lose, and whoever loses goes to the tribunal. That's the normal process. So, but when you now make it a do or die affair, that's when the followership now takes a cue from that and begin to start violence. So that's a major challenge. But I think, by and large, I think it has been so far so good.
All right. Let me ask you lastly before I hand over to you. Do you also feel that maybe there hasn't been enough deterrent because the electoral law is there? There are punishments for people who are caught violating these or people who have committed electoral offenses. Maybe the prosecution have not been diligently carried out. That is why it hasn't deterred politicians and indeed their followers from committing these electoral crimes.
Rightly so. Rightly so. I believe that we must move away from just talk and melt punishment on people who have committed perfidy, especially during electioneering process. The Americans and the Europeans have told and forewarned that if anyone is caught fouling the electoral process, that their visas will be withdrawn. And of course, sanctions will be melted on them. And they don't just talk, they act and they demonstrate and they do what they have said. And I think the Nigerian judicial process must also be quickened to dispense justice on matters like this, especially on electoral violence. If that is done, definitely we would have crossed the Rubicon of creating fear amongst the people and restricting them from casting their votes. But I also want to appeal to the Nigerian states that we should also learn to imbibe or adopt technological processes in our electioneering systems. People by now should be able to vote with their phones. In America, people are voting via mail. You understand, normal, traditional post mail and all of these things. It will give more confidence to the process, and it will reduce or eradicate electoral violence. Because if at the comfort of your home, you can cast your vote without anybody even knowing what is happening, then a lot of people will participate in that system. The NBA have demonstrated it. Some institutions like Lagos State University, Student Union Body, have demonstrated it. And some other national bodies are also at the verge of demonstrating it. And I think INEC should move in that line.
Recently we saw what happened in Akwa Ibom State, in which 2 lecturers, are going to be charged to court, for violating the electoral laws and involved in rigging the last 2019 election, so which I think is a good, example to make an example of some people so that whoever thinks of doing anything in this current election, that would be served as a deterrent that, well, you can also be charged to court for violating electoral laws.
Yes, there you have it. So much to talk about as the Edo State governorship election comes up tomorrow. Mr. Folari, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Femi. I'm sure we'll be touching base with you guys through the day, through the news bulletins. Okay, stay safe now. Okay, we'll take a break. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back, and then we'll come and continue to look at Nigeria at 60, especially the theme and the logo that was launched, 60 together. Stand by, please. Okay, welcome back. And in our studio right now is Ajuri Ngilale. Mr. Ngilale is the SSA to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. He's in our Abuja studio. Great to have you again, Ajuri.
I'm always thrilled to be with you, Uncle Yori, and of course to be with your esteemed viewers.
Thank you very much. Now, we got quite a number of balls in the air news-wise, and you are of that tribe, even though you've become something of a specialist in recent times, in that your news is now coming from one source and one direction. Still, you are of the tribe. With all those balls in the air, Nigeria at 60 is one of them. All these things are going on, and we still have to, keep an eye out for Nigeria at 60. The president unveiled the logo for our 60th independence anniversary. You know, and that's been receiving comments. But maybe let me just start from here. The notion, which is something we haven't done before, of celebrating it for 365 days. Let's just get that out of the way. First of all, that is factual.
Yes, it's an ongoing. It's certainly worthy. I think 60 years of our independence, since our independence, it's certainly worthy of a celebration beyond a single day. And I think there are a lot of things for us to look at. I mean, when you look at the country today, naturally, I think over the course of time, we've seen that on our independence celebrations or commemorations, you find that there's a tendency to maybe reflect on perhaps some missed opportunities, some of the things that perhaps we wish as a country we may have done differently in the past, etc. But it's important to note that in spite of all of the great challenges we've faced, we have been able to persist, we've been able to persevere, and we've ultimately been able to get to 60 years now, you know.
I was going to say, in spite of some unkind comments along the way, in reaching this 60-year mark, by the grace of God, that you know, the country wouldn't make it. We've come through very turbulent times. So I sort of agree with you that we've come through, you know, twists and turns, and here we are. Okay, we'll be re-establishing contact with Ajuri Ngilale, but this is the theme, and you're aware of the background. So we're just waiting to re-establish contact, and he'll be you know, good to go. 60th anniversary. He was just commenting on the fact that it's going to be a whole year, a sort of a rolling celebration. We haven't done that before, and he was just advancing reasons. The president, when he unveiled the logo, 60, you know the logo, you know the component parts by now. Don't know if we can get a picture of the logo, but it has this diamond in the middle and of a circle. The diamond, of course, representing the Western idea of anniversaries. You know, you got all sorts of anniversaries, tin, silver, gold, but from the Western concept, 60 is the diamond anniversary, and so that's been used. So we have the diamond in there. Then there's another very important aspect. We'll be speaking with Ajuri on that as soon as we can establish contact with him again. Ajuri, I understand you're back up. Okay, you're not. Okay, so the other thing that is sort of noteworthy is that we have this logo. We also have the idea of together. It's important. The news reports yesterday sort of spelt it out, but, you know, together, you see, you have that there, but it's like together, you know, together we shall be. But, you know, as an analyst, someone who said he was a marketing communications consultant, said that was also, you know, part of the whole brief that they got. Now, let's have a package while we're waiting to re-establish contact with the senior special assistant to the president on, you know, public you know, matters. Let's take this package from the studio.
That act by Frederick Lugard on the 1st of January 1914 was what brought together the northern and southern part of Nigeria into one entity. Before then, there were British colonies and protectorates. This amalgamation paved way for the union made up of over 200 ethnic nationalities with hundreds of tongues. For the next 60 years, Nigeria remained a British colony until the activities of nationalists compelled the British to withdraw and hand over to the independent Nigerian government that became a republic 3 years after. The development of a new republic had a first threat in 1966 when soldiers truncated the democratic process in a bloody coup. Sadly, the Prime Minister, Tafawa Balewa, and some other top officials were killed. The counter-coup did not bring peace, as more than 2.5 years of civil war followed between 1967 and 1970. "50 years after the bitter war, the sound of bombs and guns have ceased, but the evidence of distrust litters the entire nation. Terrorism, banditry, kidnappings, and other forms of insecurity paint a scary picture in the minds of many. But 60 years after independence, Nigeria stands as one, weathering the storm and resisting the threats. The country still has a chance to remain one united nation with advantages of good weather, arable land, massive deposits of natural resources, and a population that is yet to be tapped to the fullest."
So there you have it. Is our jury up now? Okay, we don't have our jury up yet, but yesterday we were short of time. We had the phones open and people were commenting on the 60th anniversary logo that we have. And indeed, maybe even beyond the logo, the whole concept, it's like we've sort of started leading up to it. We started leading up to the independence anniversary on the 1st. Maybe we can just go there and continue. I understand that Mr. George is on the line. Good morning, Mr. George.
Uncle Yori.
Yeah, thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Uncle Yori, it would be interesting to hear from Mr. Gelali how we can do the celebration for the whole year and how the budget for it will look like.
Okay. Yeah, indeed. He started out there. He started on there talking about it being well. You probably are familiar with the concept of in marketing with what they call a rolling launch. Probably something of a rolling independence celebration. But we'll definitely talk about that when we get back up with Ajuri.
Okay, be that as it may, I think there is need for us to be grateful. Everything may not be as one would have wanted it, but if you are not grateful for little things, you cannot receive better things.
Yeah.
Gratitude should be the attitude towards anything.
Okay.
So what I would want to suggest to our leaders.
Hello, you still there? You still there? Oh dear. It's one of those kind of days. But I think what Mr. George calling in from Ikeja in Lagos, what he was saying essentially is that he sees the cup as half full. We had yesterday with that, very much in the nature of the one word together being, a sort of a short code for a few more words. He thinks of it as half empty, half full. We asked the question yesterday whether the cup was half full or half empty, but I don't think very many people can talk about it being half empty. But again, let me just check. Ajuri, are you back up? Okay, no. So it's Garba calling in now. Good morning, Mr. Garba.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling. How's Makurdi today?
Makurdi is cool, it's fine.
Great.
Everything is okay, Makurdi.
Good.
Uncle Yori, we have much to celebrate. In as much as we have our own issues and shortcomings as a human. But aside from that, I will urge on the government and the elite and the ruling class. That emblem signifies a lot of things. We know in our life, whenever they talk of gold, gold is a precious stone that when you have it, you handle it with care. Let them replicate it in all aspects of life. Let them think of what they will do to change our life. Let this be the beginning of new things in Nigeria, which I pray so. Let them restructure the security architecture of this country. That's what is disturbing Nigeria now. when we restructure the security architecture of this country, I believe that any other thing would be okay.
Indeed.
Have a pleasant day in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Garba, for calling in. Indeed, that's another half full cup there. The idea being, of course, that the level will rise even higher. As was said yesterday, and I think as most people really know, there's a lot to celebrate at where we are today. We talked about that, and not too many people are going to say that there hasn't been a major difference between now and then. But as I said yesterday, I'm fully aware that there are people who feel passionately, perhaps probably, those in opposition, but this is not an opposition thing. This is a matter of a national thing, a Nigerian thing, a patriotic thing. It's been said that it's the only country we have. Yeah, there are people, who have divergent views of how we go about managing ourselves, but that's why we have the phones open to sort of hear from whoever wants to add his contribution to it. Do I have another caller on the line? No, not really. Also, Ajuri, I think we're still waiting to see if we can connect back up. But that's the number there. Call in if you will. We've started a bit early, and there's no harm in that. Talking about Nigeria at 60. The question, of course, is, if you want, the formulaic question, the glass, is it half full or half empty? And we got some, angry, contributions, which we're not very, we're not very surprised about, in the sense that, yeah, we can be very, very critical of ourselves as Nigerians. But I was observing yesterday, maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, that some of the things we ourselves say as Nigerians, because it is our country, I was guessing that we wouldn't tolerate for anybody else to say those things. Maybe we can sometimes be cutting with ourselves, but be that as it may. Now, don't let anybody non-Nigerian try that thing, and you find that same person saying, hey, take it easy, take it easy. You don't know us. You don't know us. You don't know. You can't be remote, afar, and think you can talk about our people, or our country, or about our achievements. But the Nigerian himself, now and again, can be quite harsh, and I don't think it's very extraordinary. So the calls are not coming in. Neither is Ajuri in Abuja, in our Abuja studio. Something happened to the connection. So it's one of those kind of situations that we have. Am I going to go on yakking to you? Hope I... we have Kabir. Kabiru has called in. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah, good morning, Kabir. Save the day.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. In Bedin Kabir here.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
I don't think the president has come to celebrate Nigeria. Concerning the history and the service we have in this country, so I don't think we have time to focus with to celebrating this Nigeria.
I'm trying to make it to understand what you're saying, because the line is a bit poor. Were you saying something about us celebrating 60? If you can hear me, could you try again? Okay. Well, let's try Mazi Okorafor, who has called in. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, President.
Good morning. Okay.
We have a lot to do. Nigeria, we tolerate a lot. We have a lot of questions. We have got a lot of things, good and bad. We have PhD holders that put him down to good ones and bad ones. We have bad student bodies. So the church, only thing that we will have to do our best at 60. Just issue of tribal sentiment, religious bigotry, and the issue of who is who. Where are you coming from? If we can eradicate this cardinal point, Sabatical and Superiori are taken, nobody in this country will stop. Nobody in this country will go to sleep without. Nobody in this country will just wake up, just their brain or go to. But these two things are what. And let's take, for example, the Superiori, my name is Ukraf. Now, Mokrafo, you know where I'm coming from. Where mention Mr. Yori, you know what? If Nigeria will embrace all these things, because if you look at the 70s and 80s, you just before you graduate from university, the appointment letter is waiting for you. You just nobody knows where you are coming from. Nobody, you just quietly take up the job, go to any part of this country and work comfortable. And
those were the days.
Now. If Nigeria as a country will come back to that basis of 70s and 80s, Mr. Yori, I bet you will not have any problem, because at 60, like what the president said, Nigeria has solved a lot of things. Now you saw what happened in the what do they call it, DRC Congo. Now you look at that, Mr. Yori, before I go. You see Rwanda. We were talking about Rwanda, the fourth war, like Nigerian Civil War. Rwanda, they are now producing an electric car. It's now being tested in Rwanda. After passing through all those war. Now they come back with a new dimension. That is what Nigerian at 60, we should find that kind of idea and move forward. Not be thinking. We should forget about the past. Let's face reality of it. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in Lagos.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mazi Okoro, for calling in. As you say, yeah, we've had some tough experiences. In fact, let it be said, we've had some bad experiences, but then we've also had some good ones as well. And very much as Mazi, as you were saying, if we can all pull together in one direction, which is where I think this one word of together, came into it. If we can all pull together, it's being put out there. Because the fact that it was even put in there at all acknowledges that there was an issue, and that this has to be addressed, and we'll be addressing it in all sorts of ways. We continue to talk about it. All sorts of actions continue to be taken. And now that we have this 60th anniversary celebration coming up, that's going to be a 364-day one. Is going to be interesting to see. Thank you very much for Mazi for centering on that point. Now our friend Reverend Dominic has called in as well. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Yori. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. The line is not as good as it has been in the past, though.
Yori, I've said it before. Nigeria is not as corrupt as people think or after the thing. We have wonderful people in this nation. But one thing that also from the job today is that despite of the attitude of our politicians, despite the attitude of few Nigerians who want to make us stand still, not move forward, Nigeria is still marching forward. Despite our population, despite we're not in for life, we are still striving individually. So Nigeria is a great nation. And with good work, with good governance, and one day I think we will have a good governance here. Even though perhaps quite different. Let me give you an example. An number of yesterday, another was the worst state in Nigeria. And to not just for and copy to this, if you go to another today, you can take it further. 8 years ago, another was like a place you can't move around. A woman came, has a wheel, and he's a Nigerian. He's a Nigerian. He's a Nigerian. He's from another state. He turns things around. One day, my prayer is for you and me. God will man a woman who will say enough is enough and make Nigeria proud what it's supposed to be. Congratulations, Nigeria. Nigeria will do well. Someone like you has worked from 10 years to where you are today. What a good Nigerian. The one man that in business, in politics, who has tried, from black and white and did the worship of black and white, now watching you in color television. And you are still doing well as a student. Nigeria is people. Anywhere in the world. Population is not helping much anywhere. Population Nigerian,
all right then. Thank you very much for calling in, Dominic. Reverend Dominic there, our regular caller. And it's heartening to hear all of these comments. Of course, the comments are mixed, but the one thing that is coming through, I think, is that there is great promise and great hope for Nigeria, and it's going to go from good to better to best, for Nigeria. Everybody pulling in one direction, and that's why it's very important that the word "together" has been added to this logo. That it sort of shows the way, and we've had people talk about that. But it's very difficult. But am I hearing that another caller has come in? In fact, Okay, then. So we're going to have to leave it here, actually. Thank you very much for calling in. We'll continue with these subjects, both Edo and the Nigeria at 60 kind of theme, as we go along, moving down. Of course, Edo happens tomorrow, and then other ones happen as well before we finally get to the October 1st, the big one. So, as always, do your best to please stay safe. I'm Yori Folari. Have a great weekend, and we'll meet together on Monday, God willing. Bye-bye for now.